All right. Section 9.2 deals with being able to multiply polynomials. And you can multiply polynomials many different ways depending on what type of polynomial you're multiplying with. So we're going to start with some simple ones and then go into ones with more terms with binomials and trinomials. So for examples A and B, I want to be able to multiply a monomial like 4x to this trinomial 3x squared minus 8x minus 7. And the direction says let's use the distributive property. Now you guys know what the distributive property is you take that term that's outside the parenthesis and multiply it to each of the values inside the parenthesis. So let's do that. So you're going to go 4x, you're going to multiply it here, you're going to multiply it here, and also you're going to multiply it here. So by doing that, let's take the first one. So I got 4x, multiply it by 3x squared. So I'm going to take the two coefficient terms, 4 times 3, which gives me 12. And then I have x. And then the thing about when you multiply variables that have exponents attached to them is that you get to add the exponents. So that's x to the first power multiplied by x to the second power. So 1 plus 2 will give me to the third power. Okay, so now I have 4x times negative 8x, so it's positive times negative, which gives me a negative. 4 times 8 will give me 32. And then x times x would give me x squared. The last one will be 4x times a negative 7, so that'll give me a negative number. And then 4 times 7 will be 28. And then x, there's no other variable, so it'll just be x. So the answer to this particular problem will be 12x cubed minus 32x squared minus 28x. Again, we're going to do the exact same thing for this monomial. It just has two variables attached to it. So we're still going to multiply here, we're going to multiply here, and we're going to multiply here. So first off, let's take 3 times 4, which will give me 12. And then I have x to the third multiplied by x squared. So when I add the exponents together, I'm going to get x to the fifth. And then since there's no y term in that inside that parenthesis, I'm just going to leave it as y squared. Now I'm going to say minus, there's no, it's 3 times 1, so that's going to give me 3. Excuse me. And now I have x cubed multiplied by x. So if I add the exponents together, I'm going to get x to the fourth. And I got y squared times it by y, which give me y to the third. The last one will give me a plus value here. 3 times 10 will be 30. There's no x value to multiply, so I'll just leave it as x cubed. And then y squared times y squared will give me y to the fourth. Okay? So those ones were being able to take a monomial and multiply it by, in this particular case, trinomials. You can also do it with binomials as well. You do the same process. Here we have, for example A, I have a binomial multiplied by a trinomial. So when I'm dealing with this, I want you to take each one of these individually and multiply them by using the distributive property. So I want you to kind of almost like rewrite it. I want you to rewrite it as 2x, and then I want you to multiply it by what's inside that right parenthesis. So I have x cubed minus 4x squared plus 5x. And then I want you to add it, because there's a plus sign here, 3 times that same value, the x cubed minus 4x squared plus 5x. Now I want to use the distributive property again for these values, and then the same thing goes for here. So when I deal with the first set of with the 2x, I'm going to get 2x to the fourth minus 8x to the third plus 10x. And then here I'm going to have plus 3x cubed minus 12x squared plus 15x. So now from here, I need to combine like terms. So do I have any x to the fourth? No, I don't, so I'll just rewrite this here. Cross that out. I got an x cubed, and I also have an x cubed here. Combine those like terms. Negative 8 plus 3 will give me 5x cubed. Cross those out. I got an x squared here. Do I have an x squared somewhere else? No, I don't. So since I don't have that, I can rewrite this as negative 12x squared. And then cross that out. And then I'm left with 10x plus 15x. So that gives me, add those together, I will get plus 25x. And so that's your answer. Okay. So now what I have to do for B is I have 6x squared minus 3x plus 10, and I'm multiplying it by x minus 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these first set of values here, and then I'm going to take, so I'm going to take, say, my 6x squared, and then I'm going to multiply it by x minus 8. And then I have this subtraction problem right here, so I'm going to go minus 3x, and I get multiplied by x minus 8, plus 10 multiplied by x minus 8. So now I get to distribute these values. So I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to say this is going to be 6x cubed minus 48x squared. Then I'm going to have minus 3x squared plus 24x. I'm going to say plus 10x. And it'll be what, minus 80? So now I get to combine like terms. So do I have any x cubed values here to combine with? No, I don't. So I just leave it as 6x cubed. Cross that out. I got 48x, negative 48x squared, and I got a minus 3. So I combine those. It'll be a minus 51x squared. Cross those out. I have an x and an x. So combining those will give me 34x. Cross those out. And all I'm left with is minus 80. All right. So that's one way you can multiply two polynomials. Another way is what is called the FOIL method. Now, the FOIL method is, first thing you're going to do is multiply the two inside numbers multiplied by the, you know what, I'll show you. So if you take x, for example, first thing you're going to do is you're going to multiply it by this value and then this value. Then you're going to take the second value inside that first parenthesis and you're going to multiply by this value and this value. It's very similar to what we did in those previous examples, except you're just not attaching them each to a different parenthesis. So if I take x and multiply it by x, I get x squared. If I say x multiplied by 9, so that would give me a plus 9x. I got negative 6 multiplied by x, so that would be a minus 6x. And then negative 6 multiplied by 9 will give me a negative 54. So the only two like terms I have are in the middle. So now I'm left with x squared plus 3x minus 54. For b, I'm going to do the same thing. Take that 8x and I'm going to multiply it by these two terms. And then I'm going to take my negative 5y, multiply it by these two terms. So I got 8x multiplied by 2x, which will give me 16x squared. I got 8x multiplied by 7y, so that'll give me a positive 56xy. So now that's done. So now I'll deal with my negative 5y. So I'm going to say this is going to be a minus 10. And I'm going to write this as xy because I like to keep the same variable order for the entire problem. And then the last one will be a negative 5y plus 7y. So that, or negative 5y times by positive 7y, which will give me a negative 35y squared. And again, the only two like terms are in the center, so I'm left with 16x squared. I combine those, it'll give me a plus 46xy minus 35y squared. Okay. Here is you're going to combine some of the things we did in 9.1 and then use some of the things we used here in 9.2 and make sure you keep in mind the use of order of operation. So here I have 5x times the quantity 2x plus 1 plus 3x plus 4 times quantity x minus 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat this and this first because they're both multiplication. Multiplication comes before addition in the order of operation sequence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute that 5x to the 2x plus 1, which then will give me 10x squared plus 5x. And then since I have a plus here, I'm going to leave that as a plus. And then I'm going to use FOIL in order to multiply this through. So now I'm left with this 3x squared minus 27x, and then 4 times x, which will give me a plus 4x, and then it would be what, minus 36. So now I need to combine like terms. So I have an x squared here and an x squared here. So when I combine them, it will be 13x squared. I cross those out. I have a 5x, I have a negative 27x, and I have a 4x. So if I were to combine those, I would get a negative 18x. Cross those out. And I have nothing else here, so I'm just going to write it in as is. So the simplified expression will be written as like this. And then for b, this one has a subtraction problem into it. So what I'm going to do is while I'm multiplying these two polynomials together, since it's subtraction, I'm going to leave parentheses involved, and then I'll show you how those can be useful when you're dealing with subtraction of polynomials. So I'm going to have multiply these first in parentheses, and I'm going to leave it as 3x squared using the distributive property minus 2x. And it's going to be minus, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use FOIL to help me solve these two polynomials. So then this will give me 3x squared plus 6x minus 5x minus 10. So even before I get rid of the parentheses, I'm just going to rewrite this with combining the like terms inside my second parentheses. So now I have 3x squared, and then I have these two values that are like terms, so this becomes plus x minus 10. So now from here, I treat this just like a subtraction problem like we did in 9.1. I write the first parentheses as is, so it's 3x squared minus 2x. Then I change the sign of each of these values. So this becomes minus 3x minus x plus 10. Now from here, I can combine like terms. So here, 3x squared minus 3x squared becomes 0. So I'll just cross those out, not write anything. I have a negative 2x minus x, which will give me a negative 3x. So I cross those out, and then all I'm left with is 10. So I'm just going to write in the plus 10. Okay. Last problem I have is a bit of a story problem. It says I have a blacktop parking lot. It's building around a garage and has yet to be built. It says they want to find the total area of the property. So the total area of the property is this entire structure here. And if we recall, area equals length times width, correct? So here's some things that we're going to have. I'm going to change the color. So some values that they popped up is says the distance from here to here is 10. The distance from here to here is 40. And then also the distance from here to here is the value x. And then we'll consider that the width. And then the length, the distance from here to here is this x plus 5. And then we find out that the distance from here to here is 20, and also the distance from here to here is 20. So the length, which we'll represent here, can be written as 20 plus x plus 5 plus 20. And the width in this particular example can be written as 10 plus x plus 40. So what I'm going to do now is we know that the area is length times width, so we get to multiply these two values together. But before that, I'm going to combine like terms. So I'm going to say area equals the length will be x plus, so it'll be 20 plus 20 plus 5, which that'll give me 45. And then we'll have the width, which will be x plus 40 plus 10, which will give me 50. Okay? So from here, we can just FOIL this out. So I can just go this value times this value, and then these values times these values. So I can get it as x squared plus 50x plus 45x plus, multiply those together, I get what? 2,250. So by combining these two like terms, I'll get x squared plus 95x plus 250. And if they ended up giving us a value for this particular x, we could then solve it as giving it a one numerical value. But since they don't, this is our answer. This is the area of that particular property. And that is being able to multiply polynomials. Hope this helps. Till next time.